Chapter 5. Maya woke before dawn with every nerve ending on fire. The silver flecks in her eyes had spread overnight, creating patterns that shifted like moonlight on water, and her hearing had sharpened to an almost painful degree. She could distinguish individual heartbeats throughout the cabin, Tommy's steady rhythm in the next room, Luna's slower breathing from the couch downstairs, and Gabriel's pulse, strong and wild, from the master bedroom. Most unsettling of all, she could smell emotions. Fear had a metallic tang, anger burned like copper pennies, and love smelled like warm honey and summer rain. It's overwhelming at first, Gabriel's voice came from the doorway, though Maya hadn't heard him approach. The enhanced senses take time to adjust to. She turned to find him leaning against the doorframe, his hair tousled from sleep and his hazel eyes warm with understanding. He wore only pajama pants, and Maya found herself cataloging details that should have embarrassed her, the play of muscle beneath his skin, the way the morning light caught the gold flecks in his eyes, the wild scent that emanated from him like an invisible caress. "I can hear your heartbeat," she whispered, amazed by the intimacy of it. "Everyone's heartbeat. It's like a symphony." Gabriel stepped closer, his movements deliberately slow and non-threatening. The keeper bloodline awakens gradually, usually triggered by emotional bonds with shifters. The stronger the connection, the more pronounced the abilities become. Maya's pulse quickened as he approached, and she saw recognition flicker in his eyes. He could smell her response to him, could probably read her emotional state as clearly as she was learning to read others. "Is that what this is?" she asked, gesturing between them. "Just supernatural biology? Pheromones and genetic predisposition?" Gabriel's expression grew serious as he sat on the edge of her bed. "Maya, I've lived for 34 years without feeling this kind of connection to anyone. Not even Luna's mother, though I loved her in my way. What's happening between us?" He paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. "It's partly supernatural, yes. Alpha wolves are drawn to strong females who can match their intensity. But it's also genuine attraction between two people who understand each other's protective instincts." Maya felt heat rise in her cheeks. "I don't know how to process this. 3 days ago, I was a single mother working double shifts to pay rent. Now I'm apparently turning into some kind of supernatural being while falling for a werewolf." "You're not turning into anything," Gabriel said gently. "You're becoming who you were always meant to be. The woman who could walk into a storm to save a frightened child. The woman who would stand between danger and an innocent without hesitation. That courage was always part of you, Maya. The shifter connection is just amplifying it." From downstairs came the sound of Luna's laughter, bright and carefree, followed by Tommy's delighted giggle. Despite everything, the danger, the impossible transformations, the upending of her entire worldview, Maya felt a surge of rightness. Her children were happy. They were safe. They were home. "Luna's been helping him adjust," Gabriel said, following her gaze toward the stairs. "Shifter children have an instinctive understanding of pack dynamics. She's teaching him how to read scents, how to move quietly, how to sense danger before it arrives." "Is Tommy changing too?" Maya asked, worried despite herself. "No. True shifter abilities are genetic, you're either born with them or you're not. But humans who live closely with packs often develop enhanced intuition, better survival instincts. It's a kind of protective adaptation." Maya nodded, then gasped as a wave of sensation washed over her. For a moment, she could feel Luna's contentment as clearly as her own emotions, could sense Tommy's excitement and Gabriel's complex mixture of hope and fear. "What was that?" she breathed. Gabriel's eyes widened with something that might have been awe. "Pack bond. Maya, you're not just developing keeper abilities, you're forming genuine shifter connections. Luna has claimed you as pack mother, and your bloodline is responding by creating the psychic links that bind wolf families together." The implications of his words sent both terror and wonder through Maya's system. She was becoming part of something ancient and powerful, something that would change her life forever. But as she felt Luna's happiness pulse through their nascent bond, Maya realized she wouldn't trade this connection for all the normalcy in the world. Her family was expanding, and she would protect it with every fiber of her being. After breakfast, Gabriel spread a collection of files across his kitchen table with the reverent care of someone handling sacred artifacts. Each folder contained a photograph of a missing child, along with details that made Maya's heart ache with professional and maternal horror. 17 children in the past 2 years, Gabriel said grimly. All from shifter families. All taken without ransom demands or proof of life communications. Maya studied the photographs with growing distress. The children ranged in age from 5 to 13, their faces bright with the innocence that Victor Kane had stolen from them. Some showed obvious shifter characteristics, unusual eye colors, slightly pointed canines, and otherworldly beauty that spoke of dual nature. Others looked completely human. How do you know Victor has them all? Maya asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. Because we found 3 bodies, Gabriel replied, his voice flat with suppressed rage. Children who didn't survive his experiments. The medical examiner's reports. He pushed another folder toward her. I need you to look at these. Your medical training might help you understand what he's trying to accomplish. Maya opened the file with trembling hands and immediately wished she hadn't. The autopsy photographs showed surgical modifications that belonged in a horror movie, implanted devices, surgical scars, tissue samples that had been taken while the children were still alive. He's trying to isolate the shifter gene, she realized with growing horror. These surgical sites, he's been taking bone marrow, spinal fluid, brain tissue. Victor's trying to understand what makes shifters different at the cellular level. Gabriel's jaw clenched with barely controlled fury. To what end? Maya forced herself to study the reports more carefully, her medical training overriding her emotional response. Enhancement. He's not trying to cure shifters or eliminate them, he's trying to replicate their abilities in normal humans. She pointed to notations in the margins of the medical reports. Look at these dosage calculations. Victor's been injecting human subjects with modified shifter DNA, trying to trigger artificial transformations. Creating artificial werewolves, Gabriel said, understanding dawning in his eyes. Or trying to. Most of the subjects would have died from tissue rejection or organ failure. But if he could find the right genetic combination, the right trigger mechanism. Maya trailed off as the full implications hit her. Gabriel, if Victor succeeds, he could build an army of artificial shifters. Beings with your strength and speed but without your moral constraints or pack loyalties. Gabriel was quiet for a long moment, studying Luna's photograph among the missing children files. There's something else, he said finally. Victor isn't selecting victims randomly. Look at the bloodlines. Maya examined the family histories Gabriel had compiled and felt her blood turn to ice water. Every single missing child came from alpha lineages, the strongest, most powerful shifter families. And Luna's bloodline was highlighted in red, marked with notations that made Maya's stomach churn. Winter's pack, alpha line, unbroken for 12 generations, she read aloud. Enhanced healing factor, supernatural strength even in human form, rare goldeneye manifestation. Maya looked up at Gabriel with growing horror. He specifically targeted Luna because she comes from the most powerful bloodline. And because she's young enough that her abilities are still developing. Victor can study her transformation process, understand how shifter genetics mature over time. Gabriel's hands clenched into fists. My daughter isn't just a victim to him, she's the key to perfecting his artificial enhancement process. Maya felt Luna's emotions pulse through their newly formed bond, contentment as she played with Tommy, trust in the adults who were protecting her, and underlying it all, a shadow of remembered terror that would probably never fully fade. The other children, Maya said urgently. The ones who are still alive, they're running out of time, aren't they? Victor's experiments are getting more aggressive, more desperate. Gabriel nodded grimly. We found evidence of accelerated testing protocols in the laboratory where we rescued Luna. Victor knows we're closing in, and he's willing to sacrifice the remaining subjects if it means completing his research. Maya studied the faces of the missing children, Marcus Thompson, age 9, from a bear shifter family in Montana. Jennifer and Jessica Reese, 11-year-old fox shifter twins from Oregon. David Kim, a 13-year-old from a wolf pack in Washington whose enhanced speed had made him a high school track star before his disappearance. "We have to find them," she said with quiet determination. "All of them." "Maya, Victor's facility is heavily guarded. Even with pack support, a rescue mission would be extremely dangerous." "Then we make it less dangerous. We use my medical knowledge to understand his research, we use Luna's memories to map his facility, and we use whatever resources your pack can provide." Maya met Gabriel's eyes steadily. "Those children have been suffering for months while Victor plays God with their genetics. I won't abandon them." Gabriel studied her face for a long moment, and Maya saw the exact moment when he recognized the alpha strength awakening in her bloodline. "All right," he said quietly. "We plan a rescue. But we do it smart, and we do it together." The phone call came just as Maya was helping Luna draw a detailed map of Victor's laboratory from memory. The little girl had been struggling with the traumatic recollections, her small hands shaking as she sketched corridors and cage locations, when Maya's cell phone rang with an unknown number. "Ms. Chen. This is Sarah Blackwood from Child Protective Services. I need to schedule a follow-up visit regarding the child in your care." Maya felt every instinct scream warnings as she recognized the voice from their previous encounter. "Ms. Blackwood, I thought we'd resolved this matter. Luna is safe and well cared for. I'm afraid there have been some irregularities in your case file, Ms. Chen. Questions have been raised about your suitability as a temporary guardian. I'll need to conduct a formal assessment at your current location." The way she said, "current location," made Maya's blood run cold. Ms. Blackwood shouldn't have known they'd left the apartment. The official CPS case would still list Maya's original address. "I'm sorry, but this isn't a convenient time," Maya said carefully. "Perhaps we could schedule something for next week?" "Ms. Chen, I must insist. The state has serious concerns about Luna's welfare. If you continue to be uncooperative, I'll have no choice but to involve law enforcement." Gabriel appeared at Maya's side, drawn by her obvious distress. His enhanced hearing had caught enough of the conversation to make his eyes flash gold with protective rage. "Who authorized this follow-up?" Maya asked, stalling for time while Gabriel moved to his computer. "My supervisor has received reports of unusual circumstances surrounding Luna's placement. Reports that suggest she may not be entirely normal." The word "normal" carried subtle emphasis that made Maya's skin crawl. Ms. Blackwood knew about Luna's shifter nature, was using that knowledge as leverage. "I have no idea what you mean," Maya said evenly. "Luna is a perfectly normal 7-year-old girl." "Is she, Ms. Chen?" "Because our records indicate otherwise. Golden eyes, unusual physical strength, behavior patterns that suggest she's been raised in an environment that most people would consider abnormal." Gabriel's typing had grown more urgent, his expression darkening as he pulled up information on his screen. He caught Maya's attention and mouthed silently, "No such person. Fake credentials." "Ms. Blackwood," Maya said, her voice hardening, "I think there's been some mistake. I'm going to contact your supervisor directly to clarify this situation." "That won't be necessary. I'm already en route to your location. We can discuss any concerns in person." The line went dead, leaving Maya staring at her phone in horror. Ms. Blackwood was coming here. To Gabriel's mountain sanctuary, which meant she knew exactly where they were hiding. "She's not CPS, Gabriel said grimly, turning his computer screen toward Maya. "Sarah Blackwood doesn't exist in any official database. No employment records, no educational background, no legitimate credentials of any kind." "Then who is she?" "Victor's inside person. The one who's been tracking shifter children through the system, identifying potential targets, providing cover stories when they disappear." Gabriel's hands clenched into fists. "Maya, she's been hunting Luna from the beginning. Your phone call to the hospital, your address, your connection to CPS, it all went through channels that Blackwood has been monitoring." Maya felt sick as the implications sank in. She's the traitor. Not someone in the pack, someone in the human systems that we trusted to protect children. And she knows we're here, Gabriel added grimly. Which means Victor's people are probably already moving. Luna looked up from her drawings, her golden eyes wide with terror. The bad lady, she whispered. She's coming back. Through their newly formed bond, Maya felt Luna's absolute panic, the primal fear of a predator who had barely escaped a trap once and now found herself surrounded again. No one is taking you anywhere, Maya said fiercely, gathering Luna close. I promise, sweetheart. We won't let anyone hurt you. But even as she made the promise, Maya could hear the distant sound of vehicles approaching through the mountain forest. Ms. Blackwood had brought backup, and Gabriel's sanctuary was about to become a battleground. Take Luna to the safe room, Gabriel commanded, his alpha authority turning his voice into something that demanded instant obedience. Marcus, get your team in position. They're not taking any of our children. Maya was already moving, scooping Luna into her arms while scanning the cabin for Tommy. She found him in the library, completely absorbed in one of Gabriel's books about wolf behavior, oblivious to the approaching danger. Tommy, baby, we need to go downstairs right now, Maya said, trying to keep her voice calm despite the terror clawing at her chest. But Mommy, this book says wolves can run 40 miles per hour. Do you think Luna can run that fast when she's older? We'll ask her later, sweetheart. Right now, we need to. The lights went out. Emergency lighting kicked in a second later, bathing the cabin in eerie red illumination, but Maya already knew it was too late. The power grid attack was too coordinated, too professional. Victor's people weren't just approaching, they were already here. Maya. Gabriel's voice carried from across the cabin, tight with battle fury. Get to the safe room now. Maya grabbed Tommy's hand and ran for the stairs, Luna still clutched against her chest. The little girl was trembling but alert, her enhanced senses picking up threats that Maya couldn't detect. They're in the house, Luna whispered urgently. I can smell them. 3 people, moving fast. Maya's enhanced hearing caught the sound of breaking glass from multiple directions. Victor's team had breached the cabin simultaneously, using tactics designed to overwhelm defenders and prevent escape. The safe room was behind Gabriel's bedroom, concealed by what looked like a normal bookshelf but was actually reinforced steel capable of withstanding small arms fire. Maya had almost reached it when she realized Tommy was no longer beside her. Tommy, she called, spinning around to find her son standing frozen at the top of the stairs, staring down at something in the living room. Hello, Tommy, a familiar voice called from below. Remember me? I'm Sarah Blackwood. I think you're Mommy and I need to have another conversation. Maya's blood turned to liquid fire. Ms. Blackwood was in the cabin, had somehow gotten past Gabriel's defenses, and was using Tommy as bait. Tommy, come here right now, Maya said, her voice carrying an authority she'd never used before, something that came from her awakening alpha bloodline. But Tommy was already shaking his head, his 6-year-old face pale with terror. I can't, Mommy. She has a gun. That's right, Ms. Blackwood called pleasantly. And if anyone moves without my permission, Tommy is going to get hurt. Now, Maya, why don't you bring Luna down here so we can discuss this like civilized people? Maya felt Luna's terror pulse through their bond, followed immediately by desperate determination. The little girl was preparing to sacrifice herself to protect Tommy, exactly what Victor was counting on. No, Maya said firmly, both to Luna and to the woman holding her son hostage. No one is going anywhere. Maya, be reasonable. You can't fight what's happening here. Victor has resources you can't imagine, connections in places you'd never suspect. Give me Luna, and Tommy walks away unharmed. Where's Gabriel? Maya demanded, though she already suspected the answer. Dealing with my associates. Don't worry, we need him alive for now. His alpha blood is almost as valuable as Luna's genetic markers. Maya closed her eyes and reached out through the pack bond Gabriel had explained to her. She could sense him, alive but injured, fighting multiple opponents with the desperate fury of a father protecting his young. Marcus and the other pack members were engaged across the property, stretched too thin to provide immediate help. They were on their own. I'm going to count to 3, Ms. Blackwood called. If Luna isn't down here by then, Tommy gets to see what happens to little boys whose mothers don't listen. 1. Maya felt her transformation accelerate, driven by maternal fury and desperation. Her vision sharpened beyond human limits, her hearing expanded to pick up heartbeats and breathing patterns throughout the cabin. 2. Luna squirmed in Maya's arms, trying to get down, trying to save Tommy by surrendering herself. Through their bond, Maya felt the little girl's love and terror and hopeless courage. Maya moved. Later, she would never be able to explain exactly what happened in those next few seconds. One moment she was holding Luna at the top of the stairs, frozen by indecision and terror. The next, she was in the living room, having covered 30 feet faster than humanly possible. Ms. Blackwood's gun was pointed at Tommy's head, her finger already squeezing the trigger, when Maya's hand closed around the woman's wrist with supernatural strength. The gun went off, the bullet embedding harmlessly in the ceiling as Maya twisted Ms. Blackwood's arm behind her back with enough force to shatter bone. The woman's scream of pain was cut short when Maya's other hand closed around her throat. "You threatened my son," Maya said, her voice distorting with inhuman harmonics. "My child." Ms. Blackwood's eyes widened with terror as she looked into Maya's face and saw something that was no longer entirely human staring back at her. You're one of them." "I'm his mother," Maya corrected, her grip tightening. "And you just made the worst mistake of your life." "Maya, stop." Gabriel's voice cut through her rage-fueled haze. "Don't kill her. We need information." Maya turned to see Gabriel standing in the doorway, bleeding from multiple wounds but alive and victorious. Behind him, Marcus and 2 other pack members stood guard over several unconscious figures in tactical gear. "Where's Victor?" Maya demanded, not loosening her grip on Ms. Blackwood's throat. "Gone," the woman gasped. "He never comes himself. Too valuable to risk." "But he has other children," Maya pressed. "The ones still in his laboratory. Where are they?" Ms. Blackwood's eyes flickered with something that might have been regret. "Even if I told you, it wouldn't matter. Victor's accelerating the timeline. The remaining subjects." She swallowed hard. "They don't have long." Maya's phone rang, the sound cutting through the tense silence like a blade. The display showed an unknown number, but somehow Maya knew exactly who was calling. "Answer it," Ms. Blackwood whispered. "He'll want to speak with you directly." Maya accepted the call with hands that had stopped shaking. "Victor." "Ms. Chen. I must say, I'm impressed. Sarah assured me you were just an ordinary human, but the reports I'm receiving suggest otherwise." Victor's cultured voice carried amusement rather than concern. "Tell me, how does it feel to discover you're so much more than you believed?" "Where's my son?" Maya demanded, though Tommy was standing right beside her, safe and unharmed. "Your son is fine. For now. But I'm afraid I've had to make other arrangements to ensure your cooperation." Maya's blood turned to ice water. "What do you mean?" "Check your messages, Ms. Chen. I think you'll find them quite motivating." With trembling hands, Maya opened her text messages. The latest was a video file that made her heart stop beating. It showed Tommy, but not the Tommy standing beside her now. This Tommy was in a sterile white room, sitting on what looked like an examination table, his small face streaked with tears. "Mommy," the video Tommy said, his voice breaking with terror, "the bad lady has me. She says bring Luna or I won't see you again." Maya stared at the screen in confusion and growing horror. "This isn't possible. Tommy's right here." But when she looked up, her son was gone. The little boy standing beside her flickered like a mirage and vanished, leaving only empty air where he'd been moments before. An illusion. A hologram. Some kind of technology she didn't understand, designed to keep her compliant while Victor's real team took her actual son. "No," Maya whispered, her voice breaking. "No, no, no. I'm afraid Sarah's mission was never to retrieve Luna," Victor's voice continued pleasantly. "It was to distract you while my primary team collected a much more valuable asset." You see, Ms. Chen, I've discovered something fascinating about your bloodline. Something that makes your son infinitely more interesting than a simple shifter child. Maya's legs gave out, sending her crashing to her knees as the full scope of Victor's deception became clear. The attack on the cabin, Ms. Blackwood's obvious presence, even the gunshot, all of it had been theater designed to focus their attention in the wrong direction while Victor's real objective was achieved. Tommy was gone. Her baby was in Victor's hands, and she had no idea where to find him. Gabriel's arms closed around Maya as her grief-stricken howl shattered what remained of the cabin's windows. Through their pack bond, he felt her anguish as if it were his own, the desperate fury of a mother whose child had been stolen, mixed with the awakening power of a bloodline that was older and stronger than even he had suspected. "We'll find him," Gabriel promised, his voice rough with his own pain. "Maya, I swear to you, we'll bring Tommy home." "How?" Maya sobbed against his chest. Victor could have taken him anywhere. Could be doing anything to him right now. Luna appeared at Maya's side, her small hand touching the distraught woman's arm with gentle comfort. "Tommy's alive," she said with quiet certainty. "I can feel him through the pack bond. Scared but not hurt. Victor needs him healthy for whatever he's planning." Maya looked up at the little girl with desperate hope. "You can sense him? Even at a distance?" Luna nodded solemnly. "Pack bonds don't break just because someone moves far away." "And Tommy? Tommy has been living with us, eating our food, breathing our air. He smells like pack now, even though he can't shift." Gabriel's phone buzzed with an incoming call. Victor's number appeared on the screen, and Gabriel answered with barely contained fury. "Kane. Alpha Winters. I trust Ms. Chen has received my message by now. What do you want?" Gabriel snarled. "A simple trade. Luna for the boy. Tomorrow night, at my primary research facility. Come alone, and the child goes free." "And if we refuse?" Victor's laugh was cold as winter wind. "Then Tommy becomes my newest test subject. I'm very curious to see how Keeper blood reacts to artificial enhancement procedures." Maya grabbed the phone from Gabriel's hand, her eyes blazing with silver fire. "If you hurt one hair on his head. Ms. Chen, you're hardly in a position to make threats. But I am curious about your transformation. The reports I'm receiving suggest you're developing abilities that shouldn't be possible in a pure Keeper bloodline." "What are you talking about?" "You moved with shifter speed. You displayed supernatural strength. Most interesting of all, you seem to be forming pack bonds with actual werewolves." Victor's voice grew hungry with scientific interest. "I'm beginning to think your grandmother's journals didn't tell the complete story about your family history." Maya felt something shifting deep inside her, a power that had been dormant for generations suddenly stirring to life. The silver in her eyes began to glow with their own inner light, and she caught Gabriel staring at her with something approaching awe. "It doesn't matter what I am," Maya said, her voice carrying harmonics that made the remaining windows vibrate. "All that matters is getting my son back." "Indeed. The facility coordinates are being sent to your phone now. Tomorrow at midnight. Luna for Tommy. Don't disappoint me, Ms. Chen. I'd hate to have to begin Tommy's enhancement procedures ahead of schedule." The line went dead, leaving them staring at each other in the aftermath of Victor's ultimatum. "We can't trade Luna," Gabriel said quietly. "You know that, right? Even for Tommy, I can't sacrifice my daughter." Maya stood slowly, and Gabriel was shocked to realize she was now exactly his height. Her transformation had somehow made her taller, stronger, more substantial. When she spoke, her voice carried an authority that made his alpha instinct sit up and take notice. "We don't trade," Maya said, her silver eyes blazing with inhuman light. "We take them both and end this." Maya, even with the entire pack, storming Victor's facility would be suicide. Would it? Maya turned to face him fully, and Gabriel's breath caught at what he saw in her face. "What if I told you that my great-great-grandmother wasn't just some refugee fleeing persecution? What if she was fleeing because she was the last of a bloodline that other supernaturals feared?" Luna gasped, her golden eyes wide with recognition. "You're not just keeper blood," she whispered. "You're from the old families. The ones who could command all shifters, not just wolves." Maya's eyes blazed pure silver now, so bright they cast shadows in the dim cabin. "I don't know what I am," she said quietly. "But I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to get my son back, and I'm going to make Victor Kane pay for every child he's ever hurt." Gabriel stared at the woman he was falling in love with and realized she was transforming into something far more powerful than he had ever imagined. The awakening strength in her bloodline wasn't just keeper abilities, it was the emergence of an alpha line so ancient and potent that it could potentially command every supernatural being in North America. Maya Chen wasn't just becoming a shifter. She was becoming their queen. And Victor Kane had just made the fatal mistake of threatening her child. Chapter 6. Gabriel stared at Maya as if seeing her for the first time, his hazel eyes wide with a mixture of awe and something that looked like recognition. The silver light emanating from her gaze was unlike anything he'd witnessed in his 34 years, and it triggered memories buried deep in pack lore, stories his grandfather had told him as a child about wolves so rare they were considered myth. "Your eyes," he whispered, reaching toward her face with trembling fingers. "Maya, do you have any idea what you are?" "I know I'm angry enough to tear Victor Kane apart with my bare hands," Maya replied, her voice carrying harmonics that made the remaining glass in the cabin vibrate dangerously. "Your Silver Moon bloodline," Gabriel said, his voice filled with reverence. "I thought they were extinct. My grandfather told stories, but we all believed they were legends." Luna gasped, her golden eyes wide with sudden understanding. Without warning, the little girl dropped to one knee in a gesture of submission that was purely instinctual, one shifter recognizing the dominance of a superior alpha. "Luna, what are you doing?" Maya asked, alarmed by the child's sudden formality. "Your pack, Luna," Luna whispered, using the ancient term for the highest-ranking female in shifter society. "I can feel it now that your power is awakening. You're not just any alpha, you're the kind that can unite all packs, break magical barriers, heal the wounded." The little girl's voice grew hushed with wonder. "My daddy is strong, but you're legendary." Maya felt something shift inside her at Luna's words, as if the child's recognition had unlocked another layer of her dormant abilities. She could suddenly sense every living creature within a mile radius, not just their locations, but their emotional states, their intentions, their very essence. The feeling was overwhelming and intoxicating. "Maya," Gabriel said carefully, and she could hear the struggle in his voice. "I need you to listen to me. Whatever you're feeling right now, whatever instincts are awakening, you need to control them." "Why?" Maya turned those blazing silver eyes on him, and Gabriel actually took a step backward. "Tommy is out there, terrified and alone. Other children are dying in Victor's laboratory while we stand here talking about bloodlines and legends. Why should I control anything?" "Because you're challenging me," Gabriel said quietly. "Your alpha instincts are telling you to take command of this situation, to push aside anyone who might slow you down. Including me." Maya blinked, startled by the truth in his words. She had been feeling the urge to simply take charge, to order Gabriel's pack to follow her lead without question. The realization that she was unconsciously trying to usurp his authority shocked her back to awareness. "I'm sorry," she said, the silver glow in her eyes dimming slightly. "I didn't realize." "Don't apologize for what you are," Gabriel interrupted, his expression softening. "But Maya, we need to work together. Your power and my experience. Your strategic mind and my pack's loyalty. If we fight each other, Victor wins." Maya nodded, forcing herself to step back from the precipice of pure alpha dominance. "You're right. But Gabriel, I can't just be a follower in this. Not when it's my son's life at stake. I wouldn't ask you to be." Gabriel's smile held genuine warmth despite the tension crackling between them. "Co-alphas. Equal partners. Can you work with that?" "Yes," Maya said, and felt the rightness of it settle into her bones. "Now let's bring our children home." Gabriel was already reaching for his phone, calling in every favor and alliance his pack had built over generations. Within an hour, his mountain cabin had transformed into a command center filled with shifters of every description: wolves, bears, foxes, even a pair of mountain lion siblings from Colorado who'd driven through the night to help. Maya found herself studying each arrival with her newly enhanced senses, automatically cataloging strengths, weaknesses, and the complex web of loyalties that bound the supernatural community together. Her strategic mind, honed by years of managing emergency room chaos, began organizing the assembled forces into an efficient rescue operation. "Victor's facility is here," she said, pointing to a location on the satellite map Gabriel had spread across his dining table. 40 miles northeast, hidden in an abandoned mining complex. From Luna's memories, I know there are 3 main entrances: the front gate, a service tunnel on the south side, and an emergency exit that connects to the old mine shafts. Marcus, Gabriel's beta, leaned forward with obvious skepticism. "How can you be sure Luna's memories are accurate? She was traumatized, possibly drugged." "Because I can feel the other children," Maya interrupted, her silver eyes flashing. "Through whatever connection my bloodline creates, I can sense their terror and pain. They're there, Marcus. 17 children locked in cages, and they're running out of time." The room fell silent as the assembled shifters processed this revelation. The ability to sense other supernaturals at great distances was legendary, mentioned only in the oldest pack stories. "If Maya can sense them, she can guide us to their exact location," said Sarah Collins, the pack's healer who had recovered from her earlier injuries. "We won't waste time searching blind." "It's still a trap," warned David Kim, a wolf from a neighboring pack whose own son was among Victor's prisoners. "Victor knows we're coming. He's probably prepared for everything we can throw at him." "Then we give him something he's not prepared for," Maya said quietly. 2 separate missions running simultaneously. Gabriel leads the main assault team in a frontal attack, enough noise and violence to draw Victor's attention and resources. Meanwhile, I take a smaller team through the service tunnel to extract the children. "You're not going in there," Gabriel said immediately, his protective instincts overriding tactical considerations. "Maya, you've had these abilities for less than a day. You don't know how to fight, don't understand pack tactics." "I understand medical facilities," Maya countered. "I know how to navigate hospital corridors under emergency conditions, how to evacuate patients quickly and safely. And if any of those children are injured, which they almost certainly are, they'll need immediate medical attention." Luna had been listening to the planning session with the intense focus of a child whose life depended on adult decisions. Now she approached Maya with the wooden pendant clutched in her small hands. "I want to come with you," Luna said quietly. "To help save Tommy and the others." Maya knelt down to Luna's eye level, her heart breaking at the courage in that small face. "Sweetheart, I know you want to help. But this is going to be very dangerous, Anne." "I know the facility better than anyone," Luna interrupted. "I know where Victor keeps the keys, where the medical supplies are stored, which guards are mean and which ones are just scared. Tommy's going to be frightened when you find him. He'll need to see a familiar face." "Luna." "And Maya?" Luna's golden eyes met hers with startling maturity. "If something goes wrong, if Victor tries to hurt the other children, I'm the only one small enough to fit through the ventilation system to unlock the cages from inside." Maya felt her newly awakened maternal instincts warring with tactical necessity. Luna was right, her size and knowledge of the facility made her invaluable. But the thought of taking a 7-year-old into combat made Maya's blood run cold. "She stays here," Gabriel said firmly. "Luna, you've been through enough. We're not putting you at risk again." "But Daddy." "No arguments." Gabriel's alpha authority rang in his voice. "This is not a discussion." Luna's face crumpled with disappointment, but she nodded obediently. Maya watched the exchange and felt something click into place, an understanding of pack dynamics that went beyond human family structures. "Gabriel's right," Maya said gently, taking Luna's hands. "But Luna, there is something you can do to help." "Something only you can do." The little girl looked up hopefully. "I need you to stay connected to me," Maya continued. "Through whatever bond we've formed. If I get lost in Victor's facility, if I can't find Tommy or the others, you can guide me through our connection. Can you do that? Luna's face brightened with purpose. Yes. I can feel you already, like a warm light in my mind. I'll be your guide. As the assembled shifters dispersed to prepare weapons and equipment, Maya found herself standing alone on Gabriel's deck, staring out at the mountain peaks that hid Victor's facility. The silver light in her eyes had stabilized, no longer the blazing fire of awakening power but a steady glow that spoke of controlled strength. She could feel Tommy out there, frightened but alive, calling for her across the distance. Soon, she promised silently. Mommy's coming, baby. Just hold on a little longer. Behind her, she heard Gabriel approaching, his familiar scent mixing with the wild mountain air. When he spoke, his voice held the weight of everything they weren't saying to each other. Maya, if something happens to me during the assault. Nothing's going to happen, she interrupted. If something happens, Gabriel continued firmly, promise me you'll take Luna and run. Don't try to be a hero. Just get her somewhere safe and keep her hidden until Victor gives up hunting for her. Maya turned to face him, seeing the fear he was trying to hide beneath alpha confidence. And if something happens to me? If Victor's trap works and I don't make it out? Gabriel's expression grew fierce with protective determination. Then I burn his facility to the ground and make sure he never hurts another child. They stood there for a moment, two powerful beings acknowledging the risks they were about to take for the children they loved. Then Gabriel reached out and cupped Maya's face in his hands, his thumbs tracing the silver light that emanated from her eyes. When this is over, he said quietly, when Tommy and the others are safe, we need to talk. About what you are, what we are together. About the future. When this is over, Maya agreed, leaning into his touch despite every instinct that told her not to show vulnerability before a battle. 3 hours later, as the sun set behind the mountain peaks, 2 convoys departed Gabriel's cabin. The main assault team, 12 of the strongest fighters from 3 different packs, followed Gabriel's truck toward Victor's front entrance. Maya's smaller extraction team took a more circuitous route, approaching the facility from the south where Luna remembered the service tunnel entrance. As they drove through the deepening darkness, Maya felt her connection to Luna pulse with reassurance and love. The little girl was safe at the cabin with Sarah Collins, but her consciousness rode alongside Maya like a guiding spirit. Through that connection, Maya began to sense more than just Tommy's location. She could feel the other imprisoned children, their fear, their pain, their fading hope. And underneath it all, she sensed something else that made her blood run cold. Victor Kane was waiting for them. Not just prepared, actively, eagerly anticipating their arrival. It's a trap, she said quietly to Marcus, who was driving the extraction team's vehicle. We know, Marcus replied grimly. Question is, do we walk into it anyway? Maya thought of Tommy, alone and scared in a sterile cage. She thought of the other children who had been suffering for months while Victor played God with their genetics. And she thought of Luna's trust, the way the little girl had knelt in recognition of Maya's authority. Yes, Maya said, silver light flaring in her eyes. We walk into the trap. But we spring a few surprises of our own. Victor's abandoned mining facility loomed ahead of them like a cancer on the mountainside, industrial buildings and chain-link fences scarring the natural landscape. But Maya could see beyond the physical structures to the network of pain and terror that Victor had constructed within. It was time to tear it all down. They were still half a mile from the facility when Maya's enhanced hearing picked up the sound of a phone conversation that made her blood turn to ice water. The voice was familiar, one of Gabriel's pack members, speaking in hushed, urgent tones. Yes, they're coming. Both teams, just like you predicted. Maya's leading the extraction team through the south entrance. No, Gabriel doesn't suspect anything. He trusts me completely. He trusts me completely. Maya held up her hand, signaling the convoy to stop. Through the darkness, she focused her supernatural senses on the source of the betrayal, and her heart broke a little more. It was Ethan Winters, Gabriel's younger brother. The wolf Gabriel loved like a son was selling them out to Victor Kane. Maya, what's wrong? Marcus asked, but she was already opening her car door. Stay here, she ordered, her voice carrying alpha authority that brooked no argument. I need to hear this. Moving with her newfound shifter stealth, Maya crept close enough to observe Ethan crouched behind a cluster of pine trees, his phone pressed to his ear. I know what I promised, Victor. I'll make sure they walk into your ambush. But you have to keep your word. Elena needs that treatment tonight, or she dies. My mate dies, and then our deal is off. Elena. Maya remembered Gabriel mentioning his brother's mate, a beautiful wolf who had been diagnosed with a rare shifter illness that was slowly destroying her ability to transform. Without treatment, she would waste away until her dual nature killed her. Victor had found Ethan's weakness and exploited it with surgical precision. The man wasn't betraying his brother out of greed or malice, he was trying to save the woman he loved. Maya closed her eyes, feeling the weight of impossible choices settling on her shoulders. If she exposed Ethan now, Gabriel would be devastated by his brother's betrayal. But if she didn't, they would walk straight into Victor's trap with no preparation. Unless she could find a third option. Opening her connection to Luna, Maya sent a pulse of urgent communication across the miles between them. The little girl's response came immediately, surprise, then understanding, then grim determination. If Victor wanted to play games with the people she loved, Maya would show him what a Silver Moon Alpha could do when her family was threatened. The hunt was about to begin, and Victor Kane had no idea what was coming for him. Chapter 7. The abandoned research facility crouched against the mountainside like a sleeping beast, its windows dark and lifeless in the pre-dawn gloom. Maya pressed herself against the cold concrete of the outer wall, her heart hammering so loud she was certain the guards would hear it from 50 yards away. Remember, Gabriel's voice whispered through her earpiece, barely audible above the wind. You have 15 minutes once the distraction starts. Get in, find the children, get out. Don't try to be a hero. Maya touched the medical bag strapped across her shoulder, filled with emergency supplies and sedatives she'd borrowed from the hospital. I'm not trying to be a hero. I'm trying to save my son. Through their bond, still new and overwhelming in its intensity, she felt Gabriel's fierce pride and equally fierce terror. He wanted to be the one infiltrating the facility, wanted to keep her safe while he faced the danger. But Maya's medical knowledge and her newly awakened silver wolf senses made her the logical choice for this part of the mission. That didn't make it any easier for either of them. Maya. Gabriel's voice was rough with emotion. Come back to me. Both of you. We will, she promised, and meant it with every fiber of her being. The explosion that rocked the facility's main entrance was Gabriel's signal, him and his pack creating enough chaos to draw Victor's forces away from the lower levels where the children were being held. Maya waited exactly 30 seconds, then slipped through the service entrance she'd identified on the building schematics. The smell hit her first. Fear. Pain. The chemical stench of antiseptic trying to mask something far worse. Maya's silver wolf senses, still raw and unfamiliar, catalogued every scent signature in the facility with brutal clarity. She could smell at least a dozen children, their terror so sharp it made her want to howl with rage. Follow the fear, she told herself grimly. It will lead you to them. The facility's layout matched the medical research centers she'd worked in during her residency, sterile corridors lined with doors marked only by numbers, harsh fluorescent lighting that turned everything pale and sickly. But this place felt wrong in ways that had nothing to do with architecture. The very air seemed tainted with suffering. Maya moved like smoke through the hallways, her enhanced hearing picking up the sounds of Gabriel's assault 3 floors above. Shouts, gunfire, the crash of breaking glass. Every instinct screamed at her to go to him, to fight beside her mate, but Tommy needed her more. She found the first laboratory on sublevel 2. Maya's breath caught in her throat as she peered through the reinforced glass window. 6 children, ranging in age from maybe 5 to 12, huddled in cages barely large enough for dogs. They were thin, pale, their eyes holding the kind of hopeless terror that spoke of months of captivity. Shifter children. She could smell the wild scent on them even through the sealed door, could see the way their eyes reflected the harsh laboratory lights with an inhuman gleam. "Oh, God," Maya whispered, her hands shaking as she worked the electronic lock with tools Gabriel had given her. "What has he done to you?" The children cowered as she entered, too broken to hope for rescue. But Maya knelt beside the nearest cage, a little girl with matted blonde hair and golden eyes like Luna's, and spoke in the gentle voice she used with her most frightened patients. "I'm here to help you," she said softly. "My name is Maya. I'm going to get you out of here." One by one, she freed them from their cages, her medical training cataloging the injuries even as her heart broke. Needle marks covered their small arms. Strange surgical scars marked their necks and temples. Whatever Victor had been doing to these children, it was beyond monstrous. "Can you walk?" she asked the oldest boy, maybe 11, with dark hair and the lean build of a natural athlete. He nodded mutely, gathering the younger children around him with protective instincts that reminded Maya painfully of Luna. These weren't just random victims, they were pack children, raised to protect each other even in the face of unimaginable horror. "There are more," the boy whispered, his voice hoarse from disuse. "In the lower levels. More cages." Maya's heart sank. She'd hoped to find Tommy quickly, get all the children out before Victor realized what was happening. But if there were more levels, more victims. "Luna," she thought desperately. "If you can hear me, I need your help." The response came not in words but in images, flashing through Maya's mind with startling clarity. Luna's memories of this place, seen through the eyes of a terrified 7-year-old. Corridors that spiraled deeper underground. A laboratory filled with surgical equipment and restraint tables. And in the deepest level of all, a special holding area where Victor kept his most valuable specimens. Tommy was there. Maya knew it with the same certainty she knew her own name. "Stay close to me," she told the rescued children. "We're not leaving anyone behind." The lower she went, the worse it became. Maya had seen horrors in her years as a trauma nurse, car accidents that turned human bodies into broken puzzles, overdoses that left teenagers brain dead before their lives had truly begun, domestic violence that painted emergency rooms with blood and shattered dreams. But nothing had prepared her for Victor's laboratory. Children's drawings covered one wall, artwork that would have been innocent in any other context. Stick figures of families, crayon houses with crooked chimneys, smiling suns shining down on flower gardens. But these pictures were marked with clinical notations in Victor's handwriting. Subject 12 shows attachment to parental figures, exploit for compliance. Subject 7 demonstrates pack bonding instincts, isolate to break resistance. He was studying them. Not just their bodies, but their minds, their hearts, the very essence of what made them who they were. Maya found Tommy in the deepest laboratory, along with 6 other children in a room that looked like a nightmare fusion of operating theater and dungeon. Her son sat in a cage barely big enough for his small frame, his face streaked with tears but his chin lifted in stubborn defiance that made Maya's heart swell with pride even as it broke with anguish. "Mommy." Tommy's brave facade crumbled the moment he saw her, small hands reaching through the cage bars. "Mommy, I knew you'd come. I knew you wouldn't leave me." Maya's hands shook so badly she could barely work the lock, but somehow she managed to free her son and gather him into her arms. Tommy clung to her like he'd never let go, his small body trembling with relief and residual terror. "I'm here, baby," Maya whispered against his hair. "Mommy's here. You're safe now." "The bad man," Tommy sobbed. He said you weren't my real family. He said Luna wasn't really my sister. But I told him he was wrong. I told him families choose each other." Out of the mouths of babes. Maya held him tighter, her silver wolf rising with protective fury. Victor hadn't just kidnapped Tommy for leverage, he tried to break the boy's spirit, to convince him that the bonds they'd formed meant nothing. "You were right, sweetheart," Maya said fiercely. "Families do choose each other. And I choose you, forever and always." As she freed the other children, some barely more than babies, others old enough to understand the full horror of their situation, Maya's enhanced senses picked up a familiar scent approaching the laboratory. Victor Kane. Maya positioned herself between the children and the door, her body already beginning to shift as her silver wolf responded to the threat. Whatever happened next, she would not let him hurt these children again. The door opened, and Victor stepped inside. He was younger than Maya had expected, maybe 45, with the kind of handsome face that belonged on magazine covers rather than in nightmares. But his eyes held a coldness that spoke of complete absence of human compassion. "Dr. Maya Chen," Victor said, his voice cultured and pleasant. "The elusive silver wolf. You have no idea how long I've been hoping to meet you." Maya felt ice form in her veins. "You know who I am." "Of course I know who you are. Did you think your medical research was published in a vacuum?" Victor smiled, and it was the most terrifying expression Maya had ever seen. "Your work on enhanced healing, on the genetic markers that allow for accelerated tissue regeneration, it's been the foundation of everything I've accomplished here." The horrible truth crashed over Maya like a wave. Her research, her innocent attempt to help trauma victims heal faster, had been twisted into this monstrosity. Victor had used her work to torture children. "You're sick," Maya whispered. "I'm visionary," Victor corrected. "Humanity is weak, Dr. Chen. Fragile. Limited by biology and bound by mortality. But shifters have transcended those limitations. They're stronger, faster, more resilient than any human could ever be. Imagine if we could give those gifts to humanity without the unfortunate side effects." Side effects? Maya's voice was deadly quiet. The pack bonds. The emotional instability. The inability to fully control the transformation. Victor gestured to the caged children like they were laboratory specimens rather than living beings. "These children represent the future, Dr. Chen. A future where humans can have all the advantages of shifter biology without any of the weaknesses." "They're not specimens," Maya snarled, her canine teeth elongating as her wolf clawed at her control. "They're children. Innocent babies who trusted the wrong people. They're the key to evolution itself." Victor's eyes gleamed with fanatic fervor. "And you, Dr. Chen, are the final piece of the puzzle. A silver wolf with medical knowledge and the genetic markers I need to complete my work. Your son was just bait, useful for ensuring your cooperation, but ultimately expendable." "Tommy's not expendable," Maya said, and her voice carried the alpha authority of a silver wolf protecting her pack. "None of these children are expendable." Victor reached for something on the surgical table, a syringe filled with glowing blue liquid. "This will only hurt for a moment, Dr. Chen. And then you'll be part of something greater than you ever imagined." Maya's transformation began before conscious thought kicked in. The change had never felt like this before. Every other time Maya had shifted, it had been gradual, uncertain, like trying to remember a language she'd once known but had forgotten. But now, with Tommy's life on the line and 12 other children depending on her, the silver wolf erupted from her human form with devastating power. Maya's body elongated and expanded, silver fur erupting across her skin as her bones reformed themselves with supernatural speed. But where Gabriel's wolf form was large and intimidating, Maya's was magnificent in a way that transcended physical description. She was huge, larger than any natural wolf, larger even than most alpha shifters. Her fur gleamed like liquid moonlight, and her eyes blazed with silver fire that seemed to illuminate the entire laboratory. Power radiated from her in waves that made the fluorescent lights flicker and crack. But it was her howl that changed everything. The sound that erupted from Maya's throat was unlike anything human or shifter had ever produced. It was the call of the silver wolf, the legendary bloodline that could unite packs, break magical barriers, and heal the deepest wounds. It was the sound of hope itself, and it shattered Victor's carefully constructed prison like glass. Every cage in the facility burst open simultaneously. Every electronic lock failed. Every barrier Victor had erected to contain the shifter children simply stopped working. Above them, Maya could hear answering howls as Gabriel's pack responded to her call. But more than that, she could feel other wolves throughout the facility, children who had been too broken to hope, too traumatized to believe in rescue, suddenly finding their strength again. Victor stumbled backward, his face pale with shock and growing terror. "Impossible," he whispered. The silver bloodline is extinct. It has been for centuries. Maya's wolf form moved with liquid grace as she stalked toward him, her silver eyes fixed on his face with predatory intensity. Behind her, Tommy and the other children huddled together, but they weren't afraid. They could feel her protective power surrounding them like armor. "You're wrong about so many things," Maya said, and somehow her voice carried clearly despite her wolf form. "The silver bloodline isn't extinct. Pack bonds aren't weakness. And these children aren't your specimens, they're my pack." Victor raised the syringe like a weapon, but his hand was shaking. "Stay back. I'll destroy my research before I let you." The laboratory door exploded inward as Gabriel arrived, his own massive wolf form moving with lethal purpose. Behind him came Marcus and the rest of the pack, their eyes blazing with protective fury. But it was Ethan who surprised everyone. Gabriel's brother stumbled through the doorway, his clothes torn and bloodied, Elena leaning heavily against his side. But instead of the betrayer Maya had expected, she saw a man destroyed by guilt and desperate to make amends. "Gabriel," Ethan gasped. "I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry." He promised Elena would be healed, but it was all lies. He never intended to honor the deal. "Ethan." Gabriel's mental voice carried pain and forgiveness in equal measure. "You're my brother. We'll face this together." Elena, weak but determined, pushed away from Ethan's support. "Victor has artificial enhancement serums," she said urgently. "He's been injecting himself with shifter DNA. He's not fully human anymore." As if summoned by her words, Victor's body began to change. But where Maya's transformation was beautiful and Luna's was natural, Victor's change was an abomination. His limbs elongated grotesquely, his face stretching into something that was neither human nor wolf but a twisted hybrid of both. Artificial claws erupted from his fingertips, and his eyes glowed with an unnatural green light. "You want to see evolution?" Victor snarled, his voice distorted by his partial transformation. "I'll show you evolution." He lunged at Maya with inhuman speed, but he'd made a crucial mistake. He was fighting alone. Maya didn't face him as an individual, she faced him as part of a pack. Gabriel flanked him from the left while Marcus attacked from the right. The rescued children, their own shifter instincts awakening under Maya's silver wolf influence, formed a protective circle around Tommy and the youngest victims. And in the center of it all, Maya felt the true power of the silver bloodline flowing through her. She could feel every heartbeat in the facility. Could sense every pack bond, every connection between the wolves who had answered her call. Victor's artificial enhancements made him strong, but they couldn't replicate the thing that made shifters truly powerful, their ability to fight as one. Maya's claws found Victor's throat just as Gabriel's teeth closed on his shoulder. The artificial shifter was strong, fast, enhanced beyond normal human limitations. But he had no pack instincts, no understanding of how to fight as part of something greater than himself. "This is for every child you hurt," Maya snarled, her silver claws pressing against Victor's carotid artery. "For every family you destroyed." Victor's green eyes widened with the first real fear Maya had seen in them. "You can't kill me," he gasped. "I'm unarmed. I surrender." "I'm not going to kill you," Maya said softly. "That would be too easy." Instead, she placed her silver paw against Victor's forehead and let her power flow into him. Silver wolf abilities included more than just breaking barriers and uniting packs. They included the power to heal, and the power to strip away artificial enhancements that violated the natural order. Victor screamed as every artificial modification he'd made to his body reversed itself in seconds. The elongated limbs snapped back to human proportions. The claws retracted. The glowing green eyes faded to ordinary brown. When Maya released him, Victor Kane was nothing more than a middle-aged human man, weeping on the floor of his destroyed laboratory. "Take him," Gabriel said to Marcus, his mental voice heavy with exhaustion and relief. "Make sure he faces justice for what he's done." But Maya was already moving past Victor, her attention focused entirely on the children. Tommy ran to her, unafraid of her wolf form, and buried his small hands in her silver fur. "You did it, Mommy," he whispered. You saved everyone. Maya shifted back to human form and gathered her son into her arms, looking around at the dozen rescued children who were finally, truly free. They had won. But more than that, they had found each other. A pact forged not by blood or territory, but by the simple decision to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. As Gabriel's strong arms closed around both Maya and Tommy, as Luna appeared in the doorway with tears of joy streaming down her face, Maya knew that Victor had been wrong about everything. Families weren't about biology or enhancement or artificial evolution. They were about love. And love, as any silver wolf could tell you, was the most powerful force in any universe. If you are enjoying this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel for more exciting story like this. Chapter 8. The late afternoon sun streamed through the windows of Gabriel's cabin, casting golden rectangles across the hardwood floor where Luna sat cross-legged, carefully arranging a tea party for her collection of stuffed animals. 2 weeks had passed since the nightmare at Victor's facility, and Maya still found herself holding her breath sometimes, waiting for the other shoe to drop. But it never did. Victor Kane was locked away in a high-security facility designed specifically for supernatural criminals, his artificial enhancements permanently stripped away by Maya's silver wolf abilities. His research had been destroyed, his network of collaborators rounded up by a joint task force of human law enforcement and shifter pack leaders. The children, all 13 of them, had been reunited with their families, their physical wounds healed and their emotional recovery well underway. "Mommy, Mr. Bear says he's too full for more cookies," Tommy announced from his position beside Luna, his voice carrying the kind of carefree happiness that had been missing for far too long. Maya looked up from the medical journal spread across Gabriel's dining table, research on trauma recovery and shifter children that would help her better understand what Luna and the others had endured. "Maybe Mr. Bear needs to pace himself," she suggested with a smile. "There's still cake coming." "Real cake?" Luna asked, her golden eyes lighting up with excitement. It was still a small miracle every time Maya heard the little girl's voice, clear and strong and unafraid. "Real cake," Maya confirmed. "Chocolate, with strawberry frosting. Marcus is bringing it when he comes for dinner." The casual domesticity of the moment, planning meals, children playing safely in the sunshine, the comfortable silence of a family at peace, felt like a gift Maya was afraid to fully accept. 6 months ago, she'd been a struggling single mother working double shifts just to keep her head above water. Now she was the Luna of a shifter pack, mate to an alpha, and guardian to not just Tommy but Luna as well. How did this become my life? She wondered, not for the first time. Through the window, she could see Gabriel working with some of the younger pack members, teaching them tracking techniques in the forest that bordered his property. His movements were fluid and confident, every gesture speaking of years of leadership and an intimate knowledge of the wild places where shifters felt most at home. Even from this distance, Maya could feel their mate bond humming between them, a constant awareness of his emotional state, his location, his well-being. It should have felt intrusive, this supernatural connection to another person's inner self. Instead, it felt like coming home. The sound of footsteps on the porch interrupted her thoughts. Maya's enhanced senses identified the visitor before he knocked, Ethan, Gabriel's brother, carrying the scent of regret and determination in equal measure. "I'll get it," Maya said, though both children were already absorbed in their game. Ethan stood on the porch with his hands shoved deep in his pockets, his face bearing the kind of exhaustion that came from sleepless nights and a conscience that wouldn't stay quiet. Beside him, Elena looked healthier than Maya had ever seen her. The traditional pack healing ceremonies had succeeded where Victor's false promises had failed. "Maya," Ethan said quietly. "Is Gabriel available?" The pack council made their decision. Maya nodded and stepped aside to let them enter. She'd known this day was coming. Ethan's betrayal, even though it had been motivated by love rather than malice, couldn't go unanswered. Pack law demanded justice, and Gabriel couldn't show favoritism just because Ethan was his brother. Gabriel appeared in the doorway moments later, still brushing dirt from his hands. His expression was carefully neutral, but Maya could feel the pain radiating through their bond. Whatever the council had decided, it would hurt them both. "Brother," Gabriel said formally. "Alpha," Ethan replied, and the distance in that single word spoke volumes about how much had changed between them. The council has reached a verdict, Gabriel continued, his voice steady despite the tension Maya could sense in every line of his body. Exile for a period of 5 years. You and Elena are banished from Pack lands, forbidden from contact with any member of the Mountain Ridge Pack until the sentence is complete. Ethan's shoulders sagged with what looked like relief. They'd all known it could have been much worse. Pack law traditionally demanded death for betraying children to their enemies. Thank you, Ethan said simply. I know you fought for mercy. I fought for justice, Gabriel corrected. Mercy was the council's decision, not mine. Elena stepped forward, her voice soft but clear. We're grateful, Gabriel. And we're sorry. For everything. I know. Gabriel's expression softened slightly. Take care of each other. When your exile is complete, there will be a place for you here if you want it. Maya watched the brothers embrace briefly, feeling the complicated tangle of love and betrayal and forgiveness that would take years to fully untangle. But there was hope there too, hope that family bonds could survive even the worst betrayals, given time and patience and the willingness to earn trust back one day at a time. After they left, Gabriel sat heavily at the kitchen table, his head in his hands. You did the right thing, Maya said softly, moving to stand behind his chair and running her fingers through his dark hair. Did I? Sometimes I wonder if mercy is just another word for weakness. No, Maya said firmly. Mercy is what separates us from people like Victor. It's what makes us worth following. Gabriel caught her hand and pressed it to his cheek, his eyes closing as he leaned into her touch. How did I get so lucky, he murmured. You rescued a little girl from some very bad people, Maya replied. And somehow ended up rescuing me too. Through the living room window, she could see Luna teaching Tommy how to make proper wolf ears with his hands. Both children dissolved in giggles as they practiced their howls. They looked like siblings, not by blood, but by choice, by love, by the simple decision to be family. We rescued each other, Gabriel said quietly. All of us. Being Luna of a shifter pack, Maya discovered, was like being the world's most specialized emergency room nurse, family therapist, and military strategist all rolled into one impossibly complex job. Maya, little Sarah has been having nightmares again since her parents went on that hunting trip, reported Beth, one of the pack's senior females. She's been shifting in her sleep and her grandmother can't calm her down. I'll stop by after lunch, Maya promised, making a note in the journal she'd started keeping to track the pack's various needs and concerns. Has anyone tried the lavender sachets I made last week? They help some, but I think she needs to talk to someone who understands what it's like to be afraid. Maya nodded. Her medical training had given her a solid foundation for understanding trauma, but it was her own experience, the terror of nearly losing Tommy, the helplessness she'd felt when Victor's men had cornered them in the playground, that really qualified her to help the pack's children process their fears. What about the Morrison family? Maya asked. Any word on whether their youngest is showing signs of shifting? Marcus thinks so. Little Jake's been eating twice as much as usual, and yesterday his mother found him trying to catch rabbits with his bare hands. The everyday challenges of pack life were nothing like what Maya had expected when she'd first learned about shifters. She'd imagined it would be all full moon runs and supernatural battles, but the reality was much more complex, and much more rewarding. Children needed guidance as they came into their shifter abilities. Adults needed medical care that took their enhanced healing into account. Elderly pack members required support as their shifting abilities waned with age. And everyone needed someone to listen when the pressures of living between two worlds became too much to bear. Maya found she was good at it, better than she'd ever imagined she could be. Luna Maya? The voice belonged to Katie, a teenage girl whose parents had been killed in a car accident 6 months earlier. I was wondering, could you teach me some of those meditation techniques you showed Luna? For when the anger gets too big? Of course, sweetheart. Come sit with me. As Katie settled beside her on the porch steps, Maya reflected on how much her life had changed. 6 months ago, she'd been struggling to help one traumatized child, Tommy, dealing with the loss of his father and the constant financial stress that had defined their lives. Now she was helping an entire community of children and adults navigate the complex intersection of human emotion and supernatural instinct. Through the kitchen window, she could hear Gabriel on a conference call with the leaders of 3 neighboring packs, coordinating territory boundaries and discussing resource-sharing agreements. His deep voice carried the authority of someone born to leadership, but Maya had learned to hear the subtle notes that spoke of doubt, frustration, and the constant weight of making decisions that affected dozens of lives. They were learning to lead together, Gabriel's instinctive understanding of pack dynamics balanced by Maya's analytical approach and medical training. It wasn't always smooth. They'd had their share of disagreements about everything from discipline policies for teenage pack members to the best way to integrate human technology into traditional shifter practices. But they were stronger together than either of them had been alone. Luna, Maya? Katie's voice brought Maya back to the present. Do you ever miss it? Your old life, I mean. Before you knew about all this shifter stuff? Maya considered the question seriously. Did she miss the simplicity of her human life? The days when her biggest worry was whether she could afford Tommy's school supplies, when supernatural dangers existed only in movies and books. Sometimes, she admitted. There are moments when I miss how uncomplicated everything used to be. But I wouldn't trade what I have now for anything. Even though being Luna is so much work. Maya smiled, thinking of Luna's bright laughter this morning as she'd helped Tommy build a fort out of couch cushions. Of Gabriel's gentle hands as he'd tended a cut on her arm last week, his touch careful and reverent despite her enhanced healing. Of the way the pack had rallied around her during those first overwhelming weeks, offering support and patience as she learned to navigate her new role. Even though, she confirmed, the best things in life are usually the hardest ones, Katie. They're worth fighting for because they matter. Katie nodded thoughtfully, then surprised Maya by leaning against her shoulder. I'm glad you're our Luna, she said quietly. You make everything feel safer. As Maya held the grieving teenager, watching Gabriel through the window as he gestured emphatically about something related to pack security, she felt the truth of her own words settle into her bones. This life, complicated, demanding, sometimes terrifying, was worth fighting for. Because it was theirs. The full moon hung like a silver coin in the velvet sky, casting everything in shades of pearl and shadow. Maya stood at the edge of the ceremonial clearing, her heart hammering with a mixture of excitement and terror that had nothing to do with her shifter nature and everything to do with the simple, human act of getting married. The pack had spent days preparing for the mating ceremony, transforming the forest glade into something out of a fairy tale. Strings of lights wound through the trees, their warm glow mixing with the moonlight to create an atmosphere of magic and celebration. Wildflowers, gathered by the pack's children, formed intricate patterns on the ground, and candles flickered in glass lanterns that lined the natural aisle. You look beautiful, Luna whispered, appearing at Maya's side in a dress of pale yellow that made her golden eyes shine like stars. In her small hands, she carried a pillow bearing 2 rings, simple bands of white gold that Gabriel had chosen to symbolize their commitment. Beside Luna, Tommy fidgeted with his miniature tuxedo, his face bright with excitement. Are you really going to be my new daddy? He asked Gabriel for the 100th time that week. I'm going to be your daddy, Gabriel confirmed solemnly. If that's what you want. Yes. Tommy's enthusiasm made several pack members chuckle. Can I call you Dad now, or do I have to wait until after the ceremony? You can call me whatever feels right, Gabriel said, and Maya saw the moment when her son's uncomplicated acceptance finally healed the last of Gabriel's doubts about his worthiness as a father figure. The ceremony itself was unlike any wedding Maya had ever imagined. There was no officiant, no formal vows dictated by tradition. Instead, the pack formed a circle around Maya and Gabriel, their presence serving as both witnesses and participants in the ancient ritual that would bind 2 souls together. Maya Chen, Gabriel said, his voice carrying clearly through the still night air, 6 months ago, you were a stranger who rescued my daughter out of simple human kindness. Tonight, you stand before our pack as my mate, my partner, and my equal in all things. Maya felt tears prick her eyes as she looked at the man who had become the center of her world. Gabriel wore a simple black suit that emphasized his natural elegance, but it was the expression in his hazel eyes, love and respect and wonder that she had chosen him, that took her breath away. "Gabriel Winters," she replied, her voice steady despite the emotion clogging her throat. "6 months ago, I thought I knew what family meant. You and Luna taught me that love isn't about blood or biology, it's about the choice to stand beside someone no matter what comes." The ring exchange was simple but profound. As Gabriel slipped the band onto Maya's finger, she felt the mate bond between them strengthen and deepen, becoming something more permanent than supernatural instinct. When she placed his ring on his hand, the pack around them began to hum, a low, harmonious sound that seemed to rise from the earth itself. "Do you, Maya, accept Gabriel as your mate, your partner, and your alpha?" Marcus asked, serving as the pack's witness. "I do," Maya said, and meant it with every fiber of her being. "Do you, Gabriel, accept Maya as your mate, your partner, and your Luna?" "I do," Gabriel replied, his voice rough with emotion. "Then by the power of the pack bond, under the witness of the full moon, I declare you mated for life." The celebration that followed was unlike anything Maya had experienced. The pack feast featured traditional dishes prepared by families who had been perfecting their recipes for generations, and the storytelling that followed painted vivid pictures of shifter history and legend. Luna and Tommy, released from their ring-bearing duties, ran through the crowd with the other pack children, their laughter mixing with the adults' conversations to create a symphony of joy and belonging. "Happy?" Gabriel asked, appearing at Maya's side with 2 glasses of the pack's traditional honey wine. "Overwhelmed," Maya admitted. "In the best possible way." "It gets easier," Gabriel assured her. "Being part of something this big, this connected, it's intimidating at first. But you belong here, Maya. The pack can feel it, and so can I." As if summoned by his words, Marcus approached with Elena, who had returned briefly for the ceremony despite their exile, and several other pack elders. "Luna," Marcus said formally, "would you honor us with words?" Maya realized they were asking her to make a speech, to formally accept her role as Luna in front of the entire pack. The idea should have terrified her. She was still learning shifter customs, still figuring out how to balance her human sensibilities with supernatural responsibilities. Instead, she felt a calm certainty settle over her. 6 months ago, Maya began, her voice carrying clearly through the assembled crowd, "I was a single mother working double shifts just to keep my head above water. I thought I knew what strength meant. It meant enduring, surviving, protecting the one person who mattered most to me." She paused, looking around at the faces that had become as familiar as family. "You've taught me that real strength isn't about surviving alone. It's about choosing to be part of something bigger than yourself, even when it's scary, even when you don't know if you're strong enough to be what everyone needs you to be." A murmur of approval rippled through the pack. "I promise you this," Maya continued, her voice growing stronger. "I will protect this pack with everything I have. I will stand beside your alpha as his partner and equal. And I will do everything in my power to make sure our children, all our children, grow up knowing they are loved, valued, and safe." The applause that followed was warm and genuine, but it was Gabriel's expression, pride and love and absolute confidence in her abilities, that meant the most. As the evening wound down and pack families began heading home, Maya found herself sitting by the dying embers of the ceremonial fire with Gabriel, Luna, and Tommy. The children had finally succumbed to exhaustion, curled up between them like puppies in a pack pile. "What are you thinking about?" Gabriel asked softly. Maya considered the question. "How strange it is that the worst night of my life led to the best thing that ever happened to me. Finding Luna in that alley?" "Finding all of you," Maya corrected. "Finding out who I really am." Gabriel reached over and took her hand, his thumb tracing the new wedding ring that caught the moonlight. "The silver wolf who was always meant to be Luna of the Mountain Ridge Pack." "The woman who was always meant to be your mate," Maya replied. "Even when I didn't know shifters existed, even when I thought I was just a struggling single mom with no prospects and too many bills." "Destiny," Gabriel said quietly. "Love," Maya corrected. "Destiny implies we didn't have a choice. But we did choose this, Gabriel. Every day, with every decision to trust each other, every moment we decided to build something together instead of apart." Around them, the forest was alive with the sounds of night, owls calling to each other, the rustle of small creatures in the underbrush, the distant howl of a wolf greeting the moon. But Maya felt no fear, no uncertainty about her place in this wild world. She was exactly where she belonged. 6 months later. Maya pressed her hand to her rounded belly and smiled as the baby kicked, apparently objecting to her attempt to review the pack's medical records while sitting in Gabriel's favorite armchair. At 7 months pregnant, she was discovering that carrying a shifter baby was significantly more energetic than carrying a human one had been. "Behave in there," she murmured affectionately. "Mama's trying to work." Through the window, she could see Gabriel leading a tracking lesson for the pack's teenagers, Luna and Tommy among them. At 13 and nearly 9 respectively, both children had grown into their roles as the pack's unofficial ambassadors to the human world, helping other mixed families navigate the complexities of raising children who belonged to both communities. Luna had recovered completely from her trauma, though she still had nightmares sometimes. But where once those dreams had been filled with cages and needles, now they featured her running through forests with her pack family, safe and loved and free. Her shifter abilities were developing beautifully. She could partially shift at will, her senses were sharper than most adult shifters, and she'd inherited Gabriel's natural leadership instincts. Tommy remained fully human, but that hadn't lessened his place in the pack hierarchy one bit. If anything, his unique perspective as someone who understood both worlds made him invaluable as a mediator and translator. He'd announced last week that he wanted to be a doctor like Maya when he grew up, so he could help both human and shifter patients. Knock knock, came a familiar voice from the doorway. Marcus appeared with a cup of tea and a stack of reports. "Gabriel thought you might need these." "Bless you both," Maya said gratefully, accepting the tea and setting the reports aside for later. "Please tell me nothing catastrophic is happening that requires Luna-level intervention." "Nothing catastrophic," Marcus assured her. "Just the usual, territory disputes with the neighboring pack, questions about the new security protocols, and about 6 different families asking when you're going to start the next round of parenting classes." Maya laughed. The parenting classes had been her idea, born from watching pack families struggle with the same issues she'd faced with Tommy and Luna. How do you discipline a child who can shift when they're angry? How do you teach a teenager to control their enhanced strength without suppressing their natural instincts? How do you raise children who will be comfortable in both the human and shifter worlds? The classes had been so successful that packs from 3 states were sending representatives to learn Maya's methods. "Schedule them for after the baby arrives," Maya said. "I have a feeling I'm going to need the practice myself." The baby chose that moment to kick again, hard enough to make Maya wince. "Strong," Marcus observed with approval. "Gabriel must be thrilled." "Gabriel is terrified," Maya corrected with affection. "He keeps reading books about infant development and asking if I'm sure shifter babies develop at the same rate as human ones." It was true. Gabriel, who could face down rogue shifters in territorial disputes with calm authority, turned into a nervous wreck at the thought of changing diapers and midnight feedings. Maya found his anxiety endearing, especially since she knew it came from his deep desire to be the kind of father he'd never had himself. "He'll be fine," Marcus said confidently. "Both of you will. This pack has never been stronger or more unified than it is under your joint leadership." Maya looked out the window again, watching Gabriel demonstrate proper scent tracking to a group of attentive teenagers. Luna had shifted to her wolf form to help with the demonstration, her golden fur gleaming in the afternoon sunlight. Tommy, notebook in hand, was taking detailed notes about the differences between human and shifter tracking methods. They'd come so far from that terrifying night in the storm when Maya had found a traumatized little girl hiding behind a dumpster. The pack had grown by nearly 20% in the past year, as word spread about their success integrating human and shifter families. They'd established formal relationships with the local human community, including a discreet arrangement with the hospital where Maya still consulted on unusual cases. But the most important changes were smaller, more personal ones. Luna no longer flinched when strangers approached. Tommy had gained the confidence that came from knowing he was loved and protected. Gabriel had learned to trust others with the responsibilities of leadership. And Maya had discovered that being a Luna meant more than just supporting her mate, it meant being a leader in her own right. "Maya?" Luna's voice called from the porch. "Can we come in?" Tommy has something to show you. Of course, sweetheart. Both children tumbled through the door, their faces bright with excitement. Tommy carried something carefully cupped in his hands, while Luna bounced on her toes with barely contained glee. Look what we found. Tommy announced, opening his hands to reveal a tiny wolf pup, maybe 6 weeks old and covered in silver gray fur. Maya's breath caught. Oh my goodness. Where did you find him? By the old oak tree near the stream, Luna explained. He was all alone and crying. Gabriel said his scent doesn't match any of the local wolf packs, so he might be abandoned. Maya looked more closely at the pup and felt her silver wolf senses tingle with recognition. This wasn't just any abandoned wolf, this was a shifter child, probably lost or separated from his pack during travel. We can keep him, right? Tommy asked anxiously. I mean, until we find his real family? Maya looked at her son, her brave, compassionate boy who'd learned to open his heart to anyone who needed help, and felt her chest swell with pride. We'll take care of him, Maya promised. Just like we take care of everyone who needs a family. And as she watched Tommy and Luna fuss over the tiny pup, already planning how to feed him and where he should sleep, Maya reflected on the truth that had shaped every day since that stormy night 6 months ago. Sometimes the greatest love stories began with a single act of courage. A decision to help a stranger, to open your heart to the unknown, to believe that love was stronger than fear. She'd rescued Luna from that alley, but in saving the little girl, Maya had discovered something far more precious, her true nature, her destined mate, and her real home. And judging by the way Gabriel was smiling as he approached the house, drawn by the sound of children's laughter and the promise of family dinner, their story was far from over. It was just beginning. I know you enjoyed this story. Kindly do well to like this video, subscribe to this channel and share your thoughts in the comment section. I would love to hear from you.